You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am the Jacob Valk, and you're not. I've got to start by breaking down Josh Allen's mammoth extension. The Bills signed Allen to a 6-year extension worth $258 million. That's $43 million a year. $150 million of that is guaranteed. In terms of guaranteed money, Josh Allen has the richest contract in NFL history. That's more than Mahomes got. If you look at total value, it's not even close to Mahomes. And AAV, Allen is second. Mahomes got $45 million a year. You remember what I said about Xavier Howard? That the contract that you get is all based on timing? The same principle holds here. Josh Allen is very lucky that it was time to talk extension after a borderline MVP season. After a year where he made the Pro Bowl and led the Buffalo Bills to their first AFC title game since 1993. If Allen's contract was up last year, no way is he getting this contract. But because he had the fantastic season where he completed over 69% of his passes, threw for over 4,500 yards, threw 37 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, he's now set for the rest of his life. I mean, it does bring up an interesting question. Is Josh Allen the second best quarterback in the NFL? If I'm going off just what happened last year and nothing else, he's in the conversation. I mean, you gotta realize something. The Bills went 13-3. Allen took a major leap forward. He's incredibly young. He's only 25. Bills fans absolutely love this guy. He could have been a Jet. I've said this before. If the Jets never traded up with the Colts, they could have taken Allen at 6th overall. How would Allen have been with the Jets? We'll never know. I actually had this conversation with Nick once. He said the Jets would have messed Allen up. Strong possibility. Allen was really raw coming out of Wyoming. He struggled his rookie year. His sophomore year, he took a little bit of a step forward. The Bills made the playoffs. They lost a close game to the Texans in the wild card round. But there was still skepticism around Allen. Is this really the guy you want leading your franchise? Then last year, he shut everyone up. Give Brian Daboll a ton of credit he really helped develop Allen into the quarterback that he became. The Jets had Adam Gase. Dable or Gase? The answer is Dable. I mean, this does bring up another interesting issue. Paying Allen off the one great year. Again, it's all about timing. It was time to talk extension with Allen after a borderline MVP season. You've got to realize something. Allen is the Bills' guy. They haven't had anyone like this since Jim Kelly. They've waited a long time for a really exciting quarterback. You go through some of the names: Doug Flutie, Drew Bledsoe, J.P. Losman, Trent Edwards, Ryan Fitzpatrick, E.J. Manuel, and Tyrod Taylor. Not a good list. And keep in mind, that was Drew Bledsoe at the end of his career after the Patriots had moved on from him. What are the Bills going to do? Say, no, we're not going to sign you to an extension? You have to do it again? I think it's a safe bet to say that Josh Allen's the guy. Okay, I like Allen. I like Allen a lot. Even though he's a Bill and he plays in the same division as the Jets, I like Josh Allen. Also, you've got to realize this. There are a couple other quarterbacks that are in line for an extension. Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson. Would Baker Mayfield have gotten anywhere close to this contract? I like Mayfield a lot, but he's not worth $40 million a year. Would he have gotten it? I'd like to think no. So for argument's sake, let's say no. Let's say that Mayfield would have gotten ahead of Russell Wilson, but behind Deshaun Watson. Lamar Jackson wouldn't have. Lamar Jackson would have gotten this contract. That means that the Bills would have had to pay more. Don't you realize that? Lamar Jackson probably would have gotten this exact contract. So Josh Allen can say to the Bills, hey, this is what Lamar Jackson got. I beat him in the playoffs last year. I need more than that. We may be looking at a $275 million contract. The Bills had to lock up Allen now. It was their only choice. You can't let negotiations linger. You don't want bad feelings between the organization and the franchise quarterback. And the value of this contract would only go up. At this very moment, Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's certainly in the top 10. He's got an argument for top 5. Is he the second best quarterback in the NFL? The answer is no, but that's not how these contracts work. You want to tell me you shouldn't pay him off the one great year? I hear what you're saying, but the Bills didn't have a choice. The value of a Josh Allen extension is only going to go up from here. I mean, you've got to realize something. If the Bills wait another year, we're looking at other quarterbacks getting extensions. Kyler Murray's going to get a big extension. If Daniel Jones puts it all together, he's going to get a big extension. I don't think that's going to happen with Jones, but the possibility exists. It's remote, but it's there. The Bills had to do this. This is a good move. I have no issues with it. whatsoever. Hopefully we're not looking at another Patriots-like dynasty in the AFC East. Zach Wilson, you better work out. Alright, now I'll give you some NBA Valk talk. And I'll start with my beloved Nets signing DeAndre Bembry to a 1-year deal worth the minimum salary. You may be asking yourself why I am starting with that. I am a Brooklyn Nets fan. This is my show. It's kind of hard to get really excited about this deal, though, even as a Nets fan. I'm not the biggest Bembry fan. I've just never been impressed with him when I've watched him play. He's a good defender. Averaged a steal a game last year for the Raptors. Third straight year he's averaged at least a steal a game. It's kind of interesting. You've got DeAndre Bembry and James Johnson. Two players that are known more for their defense than their offense. Same thing with Bruce Brown. Now that I'm really thinking about it, it's kind of interesting when you think about the fit, the possible rotations. How's this going to work? Javon Carter's another one. The Nets have a lot of defense-first players. You can't have too many of those on the floor at the same time. I don't care if you have Durant, Harden, and Kyrie. The defense can just look the other way on a guy like Bembry or a guy like Johnson, a guy like Brown, a guy like Carter, and just dare them to shoot, dare them to do something. I don't think Bembry's going to get a lot of playing time. This strikes me as more of a depth move than anything else. I don't think he's going to challenge Brown for playing time. I hope Cam Thomas gets more playing time than Bembry. The Nets were in on Andre Iguodala, so they wanted another perimeter defender. That's what they got in Bembry. He just doesn't give you much else. It's hard for me to get very excited about this. Moving on now to the Suns, bringing back Frank Kaminsky on a 1-year deal worth the minimum salary. It's kind of interesting that the Suns brought him back. I thought after they signed JaVale McGee, they were going to let Kaminsky walk. Evidently not. They wanted to keep a guy around who was on their NBA Finals appearing team. I don't mind that. Kaminsky's not going to play a lot. He's just the third center. We're at the point in free agency now where most of these moves are just going to be depth moves. I mean, if something happens to DeAndre Ayton, or if something happens to JaVale McGee, Kaminsky can give you solid production. He's not a terrible player. Not great, but not terrible. You wanted him to be more of an interior presence. He really wasn't that with the Suns. But you want to bring him back for the veterans minimum, fill out the roster a little bit. I have no problem with that. Hopefully JaVale McGee gets more playing time, though. Moving on now to the Hawks, bringing back Lou Williams on a 1-year deal worth $5 million. And this is a really good move for the Hawks. I really like Lou Williams. You know the type of player he is, spark plug off the bench, can really energize a team. I mean, with the Hawks, he was really, really good. He had some big games against the Knicks, played well against the Sixers, played well against the Bucks. It's kind of interesting to think about it. How is Lou Williams going to fit into the rotation? Is he going to be the backup point guard? Is he going to slot in ahead of DeLon Wright? He's better than Wright, I'll say that. Whatever way you slice it, the Hawks have really good backcourt depth. Think about it. Trae Young, Wright, Sharif Cooper, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Kevin Huerter, and Williams? That's pretty darn good. Good job by the Hawks in bringing him back. Moving on now to the Raptors, re-signing Khem Birch to a 3-year deal worth $20 million. And this is a great move for the Raptors. Birch stepped his game up a lot after he got to the Raptors from the Magic. He started a lot more, put up more points per game, put up more rebounds per game, improved his defense. Birch has always been a solid player. You kind of always had this feeling that Birch would put up like 10 points a game, maybe 8 rebounds a game, and give you solid defense if he was given the necessary playing time. He wasn't going to get it with the Magic. They had Vujovic, they had Bamba, they had Carter. He went to the Raptors, and they gave it to him. He produced. And now Birch is getting $7 million a year just about. Good move by the Raptors. It makes a ton of sense. Birch is going to fill a big role for the Raptors. I like this move a lot. Moving on now to the Suns, bringing in Elfrid Payton on a 1-year deal worth the veteran's minimum. And this is a really good move. Like, think about the 3 point guards that the Suns now have. Chris Paul, Cameron Payne, and Elfrid Payton. Say what you want about Elfrid Payton, but if he's your third-string point guard, you're doing something right. Payton wasn't anything special with the Knicks. He was brought in after the Knicks whiffed in 2019 star-studded free agency class. The thinking was he had potential, you could pair him with Ntilikina, and you'll be set. Really didn't work out for either guy. I mean, Payton played a lot, but he wasn't anything special. I mean, he's not a bad scorer. For the most part, he's a willing passer. Last year, he didn't pass the ball as well. That seemed to be by design, though. And he's always been a good defender. Ironically enough, last year, his defense, I thought, got worse. It'll be interesting to see which Elfrid Payton the Suns get. The guy who sets up his teammates and plays good defense? Or last year's, why is Derrick Rose coming off the bench for this guy, Elfrid Payton? This is a good depth signing, though. I'll say that. Paul, Payne, and Payton sounds pretty darn good to me. Moving on now to the Hornets, signing Kelly Oubre to a 2-year deal worth about $26 million. And don't look now, but the Hornets actually have a solid roster. LaMelo Ball, Ish Smith, Terry Rozier, Kelly Oubre, James Bouknight, Gordon Hayward, Miles Bridges, JT Thor, PJ Washington, Mason Plumlee, Kai Jones. That's pretty darn good. It's not great. It's not like they're going to go on a big playoff run or anything, but maybe, just maybe, they can sneak into one of the bottom 4 seeds. By that I mean 7, 8, 9, 10. Oubre did not work with the Warriors. They used him as more of a catch and shooter. That's not his game. He's never been that guy. He's more of a penetrator, more of a slasher, not the greatest mid-range shooter in the world. There's a role for Oubre. It just wasn't the role that the Warriors had him in. With the Hornets, it should work. He fills a need as a backup small forward. I do think Oubre is going to come off the bench. Kelly Oubre as your 6th man sounds pretty good to me. This is actually a really good move for the Hornets. This could pay big dividends down the line. Moving on now to the Pelicans, signing Willy Hernangomez to a 3-year deal. They'll keep him in New Orleans. And I always liked Hernangomez. I liked him with the Knicks. I didn't understand why they traded him in the first place. I didn't understand why Jeff Hornacek didn't like him his second year. Hernangomez was a good interior scorer, good rebounder, didn't play great defense. That was always the knock on him. But he made up for it offensively. There's a role for him in the NBA. Hernangomez had a career high in rebounds last year with the Pelicans. Actually turned into a decent passer for a big man. Set a career high in field goal percentage. Put up 7.8 points per game, the second best mark in his career. I like Hernangomez. I think he'll do good things with the Pelicans. Would I have given him 3 years? Probably not, but depending on what the structure of the contract is, it's probably not really 3 years. Moving on now to the Warriors, bringing back an old friend. The former Finals MVP. The man who locked down LeBron James in the 2015 NBA Finals. That, of course, is Andre Iguodala. Oh, how great he would have been for the Nets. You've got Andre Iguodala and Kevin Durant on the same team again. 2 of the few guys in the NBA that can make LeBron James work. You know the kind of player that Iguodala is. You don't need me to tell you. Great defender. I'm a little surprised that he chose the Warriors over the Nets. I think his path to playing time would have been clearer with the Nets than it is with the Warriors. The Warriors just have a lot of mouths to feed. Iguodala would become the backup small forward on the Nets. Brown would slide over to backup 2. I'm just not sure how the Warriors are going to make this work. What are you going to do? Have Kuminga not get a lot of minutes? You just took this guy 7th overall. He's lighting up the Summer League. He's shown that he can hang against NBA level talent. It's a great get for the Warriors. Don't get me wrong, I'm just confused why Iguodala chose the Warriors. You can't tell me that he's going to have a bigger role there than he would have with the Nets. No, there's no way that would have happened. Moving on now to the Clippers signing Reggie Jackson. to a 2-year deal worth $22 million. They bring him back. And this is a great move. Reggie Jackson stepped up his game after Kawhi Leonard got hurt. He proved why Billy King wanted him on the Nets all those years ago. It's kind of funny. In 2020, in the bubble, against the Nuggets, Jackson barely played. Fast forward a year later, and he's playing over 30 minutes a game against the Mavericks and Jazz, and against the Suns, he's playing over 37 minutes per game. Great move by the Clippers in bringing him back. I like Jackson. Really good player. It seems like the Clippers are content to run it back with, in essence, last year's team. I'm not sure how well that's gonna end for them, but hey, they made it to the Western Conference Finals for the first time in franchise history, so I understand the logic. I don't think it's gonna work, but I get the logic. Alright, now I'll give you some NHL Valk talk. And I've got to start with the Islanders finally doing something. They locked up Adam Pelech to an 8-year extension worth $46 million. That's $5.75 million a year. Look, is Adam Pelech an almost $6 million per year defenseman? Probably not in a perfect world. But the Islanders had to keep him around. The duo of Ryan Pulock and Adam Pelech is one of the best defensive pairings in the NHL. Pelech, for the first time in his career last year, got Norris Trophy votes. He had 14 points in 56 games. That's 1 point every 4 games. I'll take that from Pelech. He's there more for his defense. He was a plus 15 last year. I understand that when you hear long-term deal and New York Islanders in the same sentence, it may give you PTSD from Alexei Yashin and Rick DiPietro. But the Islanders had to lock this guy up long-term. He's going to turn 27 in 10 days, so you'll have him through his age 34 season. He'll still be good at 34. Will he be great? Probably not. But he'll still be good. I'll be okay with paying him based off of nostalgia. You gotta think the cap will be a lot higher in 8 years than it is now. This is a good move for the Islanders. I have no issue with it whatsoever. Moving on now to the Devils, signing Tomas Tatar to a 2-year deal worth $9 million. And this is a really good move for the Devils. There was a time not that long ago when Tomas Tatar was one of the better goal scorers in the NHL. Last year snapped a streak of 7 straight years where Tatar's had at least 19 goals. He had a bad year for the Habs last year. Only put up 30 points in 50 games. That's not terrible, but that's not what you expect from Tatar. I'll say this, he'll produce more with the Devils. He's the guy now in Jersey. He's their best scoring option. I'll take Tatar over Pavel Zacha, Jack Hughes, Yegor Sharangovich, Miles Wood, and Dougie Hamilton. It'll be interesting to see how Tatar does in that role. It could turn into a Taylor Hall and Buffalo situation. But I'll say this, I commend the Devils for making a concerted effort to get better. I don't think they're going to make much noise in the playoffs, but they'll be a lot better in this coming season than they were in this past season. Job well done by them. Moving on now to the Kraken, signing Marcus Johansson to a 1-year deal worth $1.5 million. And this is a great move for the Kraken. Not that long ago, Johansson was in the conversation of most underrated player in the NHL. He put up 30 points in 60 games for the Sabres, and not this past year, the year before. He went to the Wild and really didn't do much. Put up 14 points in 36 games. It just didn't work out there. But this guy was really, really, really good for the Capitals once upon a time. Put up a good year for a bad Sabres team. That's impressive. He's proven that he can contribute in the playoffs in 18-19 with the Bruins. He put up 11 points in 22 games. I really like this move for the Kraken. Johansson will be a really good second or third liner for him. And if the Kraken don't make the playoffs, they'll be able to get something of value for Johansson at the trade deadline. The last story to talk about is Darnell Nurse signing a massive extension with the Oilers. He signed an 8-year extension worth $74 million. That's $9.25 million per year. That is absolutely insane. How on earth are the Oilers affording all this? They've got Nurse, they've got McDavid, they've got Draisaitl. My God, this is insane. This makes Darnell Nurse one of the highest paid players in the NHL. And I like Nurse. He's a really good player. He got Norris Trophy votes last year. He put up a career high in plus minus. He was a plus 27. Put up 36 points in 56 games. But this is an overpay. This makes the Adam Pelech extension look like a bargain. $9 million a year? For a guy who's never scored more than 41 points in a season? I understand that you lost Adam Larson to the Kraken. You didn't want to lose another defenseman. I get that. And there's no question that Nurse drastically improved last year. But he's 26. Do you think he's going to keep improving? This may be it for Nurse. I mean, yeah, you'll take a guy who's going to be a plus 27, and you'll take a consistent 30-point getter on the blue line. But $9 million a year? Is Darnell Nurse really one of the best defensemen in the NHL? Last year he was. Overall, is he? I don't think so. I'd put Victor Hedman ahead of him, Chris Letang, Dougie Hamilton, John I may even put Adam Fox ahead of him. Zach Werenski, maybe Seth Jones, Roman Yossi, maybe Devon Taves. This is an egregious overpay. The Oilers need to win sooner rather than later with McDavid and Draisaitl. They really can't afford any big missteps. This has a great chance of backfiring. I do not like this move. Big week next week. Obviously, New York Yankees show comes your way Monday night. On the regular episode of the Jacob Valk show on Tuesday, you're going to get an interview that I'm going to do with Brian Martin, the author of a book on Barney Dreyfuss, Pittsburgh Pirates Hall of Fame owner. On Thursday, you're going to get an interview that I'm going to do with Kent Babb, the author of an incredibly powerful book called Across the River, Life, Death, and Football in an American City. Also, let me just clarify this. You will get New York Jets instant recaps this year, but you won't get them for the preseason. And some games this year, they'll be a little later because I may go to MetLife Stadium. I'll let you know what shows will be later than others when it comes to the Jets recaps. Until next time, I am Jacob Valk, and always remember, if you disagree with me, you're wrong.